Mushoku Tensei is one of the best isekai anime to be made in recent years. Is it the best isekai ever made? Probably not. But it's still pretty damn good. When it comes to starting new anime, I'm always really cautious of the series I do decide to watch because slowly as you grow older, you begin to realize that your time becomes more valuable and anything that wastes it honestly becomes frustrating to deal with. The first time I heard about Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation was at the start of the year when I was skimming through the winter 2021 anime season, and when I saw that it was an isekai, my mind instantly went, Now, you should never judge a book by its cover, but when it comes to anime, there are literally so many trashy isekais that air every year, so if you're telling me that I should give each one of them a chance to see if they're actually good or not, I'd rather run off a cliff. Now, as the year went on, I saw a lot of AniTubers make videos about the series, and judging from their titles alone, it was mostly high praise. But I was still more than a little skeptical because if you've been on YouTube long enough, you know that creators will exaggerate their titles to entice as many viewers as they can. Not saying that you shouldn't do this since it is a smart marketing tool, but if you're like me and generally don't watch videos on series or films you haven't seen, it's hard to take things at face value. With the second half of the season currently airing and discussions stirring back up again, I finally decided to give it a shot, and it's honestly pretty good, potentially even great, and I'll be the first one to admit that I may have been a bit too quick to judge it. The series follows a character named Rudius, a person who is reincarnated into a medieval fantasy world. That's it, that's the premise. Now, I know what you're thinking, because I had the same thoughts myself. How does this series differ from any isekai that came before it? The short answer is that all the story elements of what make it an isekai are an integral part of the series, and there's a reason to why each of them exist. They aren't just tropes and cliches thrown in because a more popular series had done it before. Careful thought was put into the characters, and I think what the best part of the series does is its intricate world building. Mushoku Tensei is a series that feels like it's a story that needs to be told rather than some quick cash grab from companies trying to make a quick buck. You can actively feel that there's a higher level of quality being made here in comparison to most generic shows. From the outside looking in, Rudius may seem like a typical self-insert protagonist where you are dropped into this new world, can become any person you want to be, and choose your own waifu like you're playing fucking Pokemon. But from the very start of the series, Mushoku Tensei actively critiques the idea that Rudius is a self-insert by presenting the fact that in his previous real-world life, he was a 34-year-old loser shut-in who only played video games, watched anime, and leeched off his parents. It's only until he was kicked out where he died and got reincarnated as a baby in another world. What got me interested in the beginning was how slowly and meticulously we were introduced to the fantasy world around us. The environment that Rudius slowly grew up in felt like a world that could actually exist. It was lived in, and the characters all felt like people who actually had lives outside the screen time they were in. You can tell that a series has fundamentals of good writing when a lot of personality is given to the supporting cast and have identifiable flaws and traits as people. Even the minor characters aren't treated as NPCs in an RPG. Take for instance Rudius's immediate family. His father Paul is a womanizer but still tries his best to be the best dad that he can. His mother Zenith used to be an adventurer but has now settled down to start a family and is extremely proud to have a genius son. Now what's really interesting to me about Mushoku Tensei's story is how there isn't an overarching plot until about episode 10 of the series, but yet still manages to be engaging and entertaining despite that. A lot of the episodes before the big plot event honestly feels like a slice of life in a fantasy where you just spend time learning about the characters themselves as well as the mechanics and lore of the world. That might seem a bit boring when I'm explaining it, but the fact that the tone and atmosphere surrounding the characters is grounded in reality adds that extra layer of immersion. One aspect of the series I see being discussed online that is controversial is how the show tackles its sexual themes, especially in regards to Rudius as a character. But before I go into detail about him, I just want to say that I appreciate any series that can cover the topic of sex in a natural and tasteful manner. Too often do I see anime just not talk or even cover the idea when it should be a natural part of everyday life. Other times, it can go the complete opposite direction with the topic being too overblown and melodramatic. There's a fine balance that needs to be achieved in order for the topic to be still talked about, yet not exaggerated to the point of being distasteful. With that being said, let's talk about Rudius as a character. From the beginning, it's obvious that you aren't meant to root for him as a person, at least not until he's shown some semblance of change. The point of his character is for him to redeem himself by first showing us his worst traits. Where could I have heard that before? In his previous life, he was the scum of society. The series literally shows us that Rudius has anxiety and self-confidence issues with the outside world because he was bullied in high school, albeit the way he was portrayed was more than a little over the top that it was comically funny. I mean, being strung up naked as a piñata at the school gates for everyone to see is a bit on the nose, but nevertheless, Mushoku Tensei is making the obvious point that Rudy has suffered severe trauma and it was the catalyst that led him to become a shut-in. Personally, I think this aspect of his character was explored really well, with him being awkward and missing social cues, especially when interacting with characters like Roxy and Paul. I think where the show misses the mark is when Rudy is portrayed as being extremely perverted and creepy, yet the series more often than not plays it off as a comedic joke. Other times when it showed characters being horny, it was never played off for laughs or overblown. It made sense in the context they were in. Paul and Zenith were husband and wife, so it made sense for them to constantly bang. Even having Aisha and Roxy peep on them and then getting into the mood as well still was shown in a tasteful manner. But when you show Rudy, a mentally 34-year-old man, trying to groom Eris, a literal 13-year-old, I'm left going,
"You're a grown man."
I know.
There's something I gotta tell you. I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
I thought they said I wasn't under arrest.
I mean really, what are we, the Smash community? Get the twitlongers ready. Your Honor, if she's 13,
エリスに魔術を教えてくださいにゃ
I'm 13. If Rudius was held accountable or called out for these disgusting traits, it would have made it a lot more bearable instead of it just being played off for laughs. To the show's credit, it does get a lot better as the series continues, but as it stands, it actively hurt my investment in the show. It may be a deal breaker for some people, which is understandable, but I don't think it's nearly the worst offense I've seen. Rudius is a character that progressively is getting better and better as the series continues, and I do hope that this aspect of him is soon long in the past. Moving on to my favorite character, Roxy provides a much needed comforting and genuinely wholesome energy in the series. She has a much more reserved and laid-back character archetype, but is intelligent and hyper-aware of the world around her. She's the most sensible character in Mushoku Tensei, thus making her extremely likable. She's also not portrayed to be perfect either. She has flaws just like any other person. She's insecure and self-conscious, and at times lacks the confidence in herself, yet despite that wants to learn and continue to grow as a person. Her backstory episode only solidified more why she's such an angel and deserves to be called best girl for a reason, and it's not even close. All hail ROXY Supremacy. My initial impressions of Eris were not very high. She was introduced as an over-the-top tsundere who would overreact at every turn, and this made her kind of a little cunt if I'm being honest. But of course, as Mushoku Tensei has shown, this is a series about character growth, and so as the years pass by and she gets more and more screen time, Eris begins to mature a lot more and actually develops a little emotional intelligence so that her first reaction to everything isn't just to fight. It actually kind of surprised me when Eris actually comforted Rudy because he was depressed about the fight with his father, and in the most recent episode as of the writing of this video, Turning Point 2, she has become a lot more likable and endearing when compared to how she started, and I'm looking forward to how she progresses further as the series goes on. One of the more unique aspects I found about Mushoku Tensei is the lack of any real OP. Instead, what the show does is that it uses this as a chance to explore the world and the characters even more by giving a sense of exploration. The song that plays is very melancholic, and pairing this with what is essentially a preview of the world during that episode, it sets a grounded tone for what's to come. From what I can tell, this adaptation of Mushoku Tensei sure is taking its time to build up its world and characters. As we're now in the second half of the anime, it just started revealing what the big story arcs are going to be. The anime right now feels like a prologue to an even bigger story, and it would honestly be a shame if there was no continuation of this in the future. Mushoku Tensei has all the fundamental parts of making a great anime. Flawed yet endearing characters, a well-defined and intricate world, high production on its technical side. All it needs to do now is just show us the full scope of its story and execute the way it's currently been going. That might seem like a tall task, but if it does deliver in the future, it's going to be remembered as one of the best isekai anime ever made, and I hope we get the chance to see it unfold. Leave a comment on what you think about the series, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.